It
I
feels
was
like
like,
people are starting to like feel like life is normal, but it's
yeah,
not. Like I was at the grocery store, and there was this woman, and I assume her boyfriend, who he didn't have a mask on. She did. He's just walking around, touching things, touching his face, just like walking around.
Now that I'm up quarantining near my parents, I just got here, so I haven't seen them. And so I talked to my mom through a window, which was really strange.
I've been quarantined with my family and my grandma's still at my house. So like, I've been taking this like super, super seriously. And what frustrates me is like the amount of friends I have that aren't.
I saw the people on my block pretty much partying, and all the bars and whatnot had their little storefront situation where people were really supposed to just come through, get their food, and then leave. But people were just, because it was so nice outside, people were just standing there.
Is it safe? Like, is it safe to go outside? Is it safe to create a bigger circle of social distancing now that we are reopening? How does it all work?
This is a snippet from a meeting with Politico's video team. Conversations like this are happening all over the country as states phase in reopening. There are so many questions, so we asked an expert.
What happens is this great paradox with public health. If something is forecast to be really, really bad, and it isn't as bad as it might have been, and it was plenty bad, we've got 90,000 dead people in this country, it's bad. But it's not as bad as some people anticipated. There was an article published in Health Affairs showing that staying at home really helped tamp it down. I mean, don't forget that we're going to have 100,000 dead in a matter of days, a week or two, right? And it's not going to stop when it hits 100,000. We're not also hearing from Dr. Birx or Tony Fauci or the CDC on a regular basis. We can say it's better. We can be grateful it's not worse, but it's better than it could have been because we did extreme public health measures. Now, those extreme public health measures have had horrible economic consequences. The economic distress is real, and in some places it's not distress, it's really a deep crisis that people can't see their way out of. So I'm not minimizing that pain or those needs, but we have to hear both messages. We have to hear, this is what we need to do to restore our economy, to let people earn a living again. How do you reopen safely? And we don't know. I mean, that's the scary thing. We are not doing it the way the public health officials a month or two ago told us we could be and should be. This whole pandemic has been so hard for us to wrap our brains around. It's been so hard to live through, and we want to think it's done, and we want to think it's better. If you live in a town or a community that's not as affected, it's easier to think it's not affecting you. I think you have to remember that even if you can't see the virus, it's there. President Trump calls it the invisible enemy or the invisible scourge, and that's what it is. If you don't hear an ambulance in your neighborhood, there's an ambulance in somebody else's neighborhood. So states are moving at very different paces. They're allowing different things. I mean, we all know that Georgia, opened manicures and massages, even before the federal stay-at-home guidelines had expired. The states are doing it so unevenly. It's a smart little virus. It's done a lot of damage, but it doesn't recognize state boundaries. And we're not getting all the data we need from the states. And some of the steps that were talked about in terms of you cannot open your state until you have to go through these gates, and you have to have contact tracers, and you have to have testing capacity, and you have to have some other messaging about we're not going back to normal. Even if you start economic activity, your social activity should be minimal. We're hearing really optimistic things about a vaccine. President Trump keeps saying, we're going to have it by September. The scientists aren't saying we're going to have it by September. The scientists aren't even promising that we're going to have it by January. And when we have it, we won't all get it on day one. I think it's partly our own psychology. But, you look outside and it's going to be Memorial Day, and we've been inside for months. So we're not seeing those horrible pictures of New York. We are seeing some normalcy. We're seeing some people venturing out. Maybe we have ventured out a little bit. Our optimism, we want to come through this. We want it to be the end. We want it to be summer. We want to think about normalcy. We want to think about our kids going to school. We want to think about visiting, relatives and grandparents and everything else. We want to think about, having fun. We're hearing, we're open. We're going to have rallies. We're going to have sports. And yeah, we want to have a normal life. We want to get back to normal life. But if we don't go back to normal life carefully, the risk is that normal life and economic recovery will actually take longer.